Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning,
Good
Secretary.
morning.
Always good to see you again.
And you.
I'd like to start off, thank you very much for your help in Montana. We are making a lot of progress to improving the healthcare delivery for the veterans there, and I'm looking forward to having a permanent director, which I understand is very soon.
Yes, in the works.
To make sure that we get Fort Harrison straight. Secretary, in January, an opinion article in The Hill was written by 3 VA psychologists with over 40 years of clinical experience. And it was titled, "The VA is Abandoning Women Veterans' Rights for Gender Identity." The article pointed out that single-sex spaces within the VA, those ensuring bodily privacy, such as bathrooms, exam rooms, and medical exam areas, can now be accessed by males who self-identify as women. Now, we have just made an incredible investment in the VA facilities across the nation because of the growing population of females within the veterans community. And so I really don't understand, so that we were making all this investment to try and make them feel comfortable, to make them feel more welcomed into the veterans facilities, why we would now be opening these exact same facilities to males who are identifying as women. Are you aware of a letter that I wrote about this topic with Representative Crane back on February the 12th?
I am aware of your letter. I'd have to refresh my memory if I've responded to you yet, but I know that we're working that. I also know that when I saw the report in the newspaper, I also reached out to VHA to make sure that they were talking to our clinicians across the system, and our commitment to all of our vets is that they get care in a safe environment, that they feel safe, and I have every expectation, in fact, it is my conviction that we ensure that for veterans.
And we're not just talking now about the veterans and their level of comfort to make sure that our female veterans can come into these facilities and feel inviting, okay, right, and feel safe about it. But the article was published. One of the psychologists, Direct Reports, delivered a memorandum removing her from her role as a psychologist. The psychologist was pulled away from her patients for approximately 1 week after being reinstated. There's no question this resulted in disruption of care for her patients. And one of the other psychologists who wrote the article was kicked out of the VA chat and was previously prevented from supervising students for his opposition to DEI initiatives. You said at a press conference when asked about the article, "We do not require our employees to choose between their conscience and their career."
We don't.
And so that is the case, 365, 24/7. That is a noble goal. However, these employees did speak their conscience, and they were punished. There seems to be a little bit of a disconnect between the words and what has happened to these employees. Are you aware of the retribution that these employees have faced?
What I understand is that it's standard VA practice that when there is a dust-up around a provider, that the local leadership would take a look at what the dust-up is about, and then they'd make some decisions about it. That's, as I understand it, what happened in this case. As your question suggested, the provider went back to patient care within a week. You said there's no question that it impacted the veterans' care. I actually haven't seen any sense that there is a question whether it impacted veterans' care, meaning I've seen no evidence that it did impact veterans' care. And those kinds of procedures, which are laid out in VHA practice guidebooks across the system, are the kinds of steps that I would think a responsive, high reliability organization would take.
But the employees should not, in your words, be subject to retribution for speaking their conscience.
I don't think this was retribution, Congressman. Look, again, this is all derivative. I'm learning this partly to make sure that I can respond to you and Mr. Crane. But these are decisions, these are potential processes laid out in VHA guidebooks about how to make sure that we're managing the provision of care effectively across the system. I don't think this is retribution. The person, there was questions about the dust up. It sounds to me like the local leadership looked into it, and within a week, the person was back on the job. As to the employee-controlled chat group, I don't think it's appropriate for me to start managing who's members and who's not members of a chat group. I think those are collegial decisions that our professionals can
Well, I will take you at your word, because we always have been able to rely on each other,
Yes.
and it's always been my experience that when you are made aware of these things, that you have looked into them and made sure that they were made straight. The last comment that I would just like to make is that while Ranking Member Taekwondo embraces the expansion of the VA, what our job here is to make sure that the veterans get the care that they have earned, that they deserve, when they want it, where they want it, not to protect the VA. It is not to protect the VA. It is to make sure that the veterans get the care that they have earned and they deserve, when they want it, where they want it. And I assure you, when you're dealing in urban areas, it is a lot easier for the veterans to slip into a VA facility than it is in Montana, where we have 100,000 veterans that are dispersed across 145,000 square miles, and they are heavily dependent on the community care in order to make sure that they're being taken care of. Thank you very much. I appreciate all your work.
Thank you. I appreciate your always being available to me. And look, I think Montana is emblematic of the challenge that we face as a country, which is access in rural settings. I've spent time in many of your districts asking these same questions. I suggest that among organizations making investments in rural settings, few rival the amount of dollars that VA itself is investing in rural settings, and I think that's important. And part of that is based on our belief that rural veterans deserve access to the highest quality care too, right? And so this is also why we're working with DOD and even now with U.S. Department of Agriculture to make sure that we have high quality care sites available to veterans across the 140,000 miles?
145,000 square miles.
It's a little bigger in Minnesota, but not that much.
Thank you. I yield back, Mr. Chair. Thank you.